I used to think a locked door meant we were safe. But the night a stranger knocked and said my father's name before I even spoke taught me how wrong I was. I was 10 years old, living in a small duplex in northern Indiana with my mom, my dad, and my 3 siblings. Winters were brutal, money was tight, and most nights Mom worked late shifts at a warehouse while Dad traveled out of state for construction jobs. That meant many nights home alone. Our neighbor, Mrs. Patel, watched my younger siblings, 6-year-old Noah and 2-year-old Emma. My 8-year-old sister Lily and I were always paired together. That night we were upstairs at the Patels, playing board games while Mrs. Patel looked after the younger two. After a while, I told Lily I wanted to go down to our apartment. Maybe grab snacks or just sit in our living room without noise. Lily followed without thinking much about it. The moment we walked in, the apartment felt hollow. The kind of quiet that presses on your ribs. I kept the TV on low while Lily flipped through a magazine. Outside, the world was still, distant snowplows, a dog barking far away, the occasional crunch of car tires over ice. Then a knock on the door, not loud, just firm enough to freeze both of us. We had a handful of neighbors, so I didn't panic, not yet. Check the peephole first, I told Lily. She did, then stepped back slowly. I don't know who that is. My stomach tightened. I pressed my face to the peephole. A tall, scruffy man stood on our porch, gray stubble, heavy jacket, jeans dirty at the knees, old work boots. He didn't look like anyone from our building or anyone who belonged near kids alone at night. Another knock. Harder, despite my better judgment. I opened the door an inch, leaving the chain in place. The man leaned forward slightly. His breath fogged white. You must be Mark's kids, he said. I froze. My dad's name was Mark, but this man was a stranger. Who are you? I managed. I'm an old friend of your grandfather. I know your dad too. Good man. He delivered the lie too smoothly. Next to me, Lily grabbed my sleeve. Is your mom home? He asked casually. No, I answered too fast. He nodded slowly, and something about that nod terrified me. Well, I talked to her earlier today. She knows me. Why don't you let me come inside and wait for her? She won't mind. Every instinct in my body screamed no. Just then my phone buzzed. The sound made him twitch. That's probably her, I said quickly. I'll ask. I slammed the door and threw the locks. My hands shook so hard the phone almost slipped. It was Mom calling. It was my best friend Mia. Her voice was frantic. Where are you? At home. Why? My mom just saw a creepy man walking around your building looking into windows. She already called the cops. I felt the blood drain from my body. I looked at Lily. We have to go right now. We ran to our bedroom, opened the window, and climbed out into the freezing snow. We crouched low, moving behind the building, trying not to make a sound. Twice I thought I heard footsteps behind us. Twice I didn't dare turn around. We slipped between 2 buildings and sprinted to Mia's place, banging on the door until Mrs. Collins pulled us inside and locked it immediately. Police arrived before Mom did. They searched our apartment. The man was gone. Mom arrived pale and shaking. She hugged us tight before telling us something worse. Earlier that day at a corner store, a man had stopped her. He'd stared at baby Emma, then asked, "Who's the dad?" Mom had given only my dad's first name. However, the man accurately stated our last name. Mom hadn't told him. She left quickly, uneasy, and took a different route home just in case. But he found us anyway. 2 days later, the leasing office checked camera footage. Around 4 a.m., the same man returned. He tried every window. Every single one. He pressed his face to the glass, pulled at the frames, and circled the building slowly and carefully, like mapping every possible way inside. He stayed for almost half an hour before walking off into the snow. He never came back, but occasionally when I'm alone at night and the house gets too quiet, I hear the memory of that knock, that voice, saying my father's name like he'd practiced it. I still wonder what would have happened if one window had been unlocked, if he'd got inside. As if we hadn't run fast enough, and I know one thing for certain. He wasn't looking for my mom. He wasn't looking for my dad. He was looking for us. I always thought walking to the corner shop alone was harmless. But that night I learned how fast someone can decide to follow you, and how they can find out where you live. I was 12 years old, living with my parents and my 7-year-old brother Jamie, in a quiet town just outside Halifax, Nova Scotia. It was late October, cold, dark, and the kind of quiet that makes you notice every little sound. My parents were heading to a big home store 40 minutes away. "Mia, do you want to come?" my mom asked. I didn't even look up from the couch. "No, I'll stay, I'm tired." Dad gave me the usual warning: lock the door, don't open it for anyone. They left, and the house instantly felt too empty. I turned on the TV just for noise, but 20 minutes later I was craving candy. It was Friday night, snack night. Dawson's Market was only a 10-minute walk away, and I'd gone before. It was already getting dark, but the streetlights were on. I put on my hoodie, locked the door behind me, and started walking. The air smelled like wet leaves, and the pavement shimmered from earlier rain. A few people walked their dogs. Nothing weird. I got to Dawson's, bought gummy worms and a soda, and chatted briefly with Mr. Dawson. "Be careful walking home," he said. "I will," I promised, but as soon as I stepped back outside, the street felt different. Lonely, I headed toward my neighborhood, hugging the plastic bag to my chest. That's when I heard it. A bike chain rattling. I turned slightly. A man on a bicycle was approaching from the opposite side. The bike wobbled like he could barely control it. His jacket was too thin for the cold. His hair was messy under a beanie. He muttered something as he passed me. I looked down and kept walking. "Hey," he suddenly yelled behind me. "Hey, wait." My blood went cold. I didn't turn. I walked faster. "Girl, hold up a second." He was talking to me. I broke into a run. Behind me, I heard the sharp scrape of his bike turning around. The chain rattled violently. Tires skidded. He was following me. Panic clawed at my throat. The main road would take too long, but there was a shortcut, a narrow path through the woods behind our street. Without thinking, I darted toward the opening between the trees. Branches slapped my arms as I sprinted through the forest. My breath came in harsh, cold bursts. Leaves cracked under my shoes. Behind me, I heard him crashing through the brush. "Wait. I just want to talk," he shouted. I didn't answer. I just ran. When I finally burst out of the woods, my lungs were burning. I could see the streetlights of my neighborhood. I sprinted up the sidewalk, nearly tripping over myself. I reached my front door, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the key. The lock slipped once, twice, then finally clicked. I slammed the door shut and locked it. For 10 whole seconds, I just stood there, gasping. Then I crept to the living room window and peeked through the blinds. He was standing on the sidewalk, breathing hard, sweaty, staring directly at my house. Then his eyes lifted slowly and locked right onto me in the window. I dropped the curtain and stumbled backward, choking on a sob. Seconds later, he walked up to the door. Knock, knock. My whole body froze. "Hey," he called through the wood. "Open up, I just want to talk." Another knock. Louder. I wanted to scream, but no sound would leave my throat. "Come on," he said, voice shifting into something sharper. "Don't be scared." Silence. A silence so heavy it felt alive. I stayed crouched under the window, holding my breath. Then headlights washed across the room. Our neighbor's car pulled into the driveway next door. The man must have seen it too, because I heard quick footsteps, then the squeak of bike brakes. I ran back to the window just in time to see him ride off into the dark. When my parents came home later, loaded with boxes and bags, they didn't notice anything. I didn't say a word. My throat felt tight, like the fear hadn't left yet. It took me 4 years to tell my mom. When I finally did, casually, like it was nothing, she paled. "Mia, why didn't you tell us?" "I don't know," I whispered, but I did know. Because after that night, everything changed. Going to the corner shop didn't feel small anymore. Being alone didn't feel normal anymore. And every time I hear a bike chain rattle behind me, I remember the way he looked at me through the glass, like he was memorizing my door. That was the first time I understood that danger doesn't always chase you with footsteps. Sometimes danger rides a cheap, wobbling bike and follows you all the way home in the dark. I was only 18 the night it happened, and to this day I still can't take a shower without checking the hallway 3 times. The moment the bathroom door began to open on its own, I knew I wasn't alone in the house anymore. My name is Caleb Turner, and back then I lived in Maple Ridge, Ohio, with my mom and my 14-year-old sister, Rachel. My mom typically worked evening shifts at a local grocery warehouse, leaving us alone from 5 p.m. until around midnight. My sister was at a sleepover that Thursday night, which left me completely alone. Normally, I didn't mind. I was a senior in high school, built like an athlete and foolish enough to believe nothing bad would ever happen to me. Our house was small but comfortable, 2 bedrooms on the 2nd floor, a narrow staircase, and a downstairs living room that always felt too quiet when no one else was home. That night it was raining. Not a heavy storm, just a cold, steady drizzle tapping against the windows like fingers. I'd gotten home from football practice exhausted, threw my backpack on the couch, and decided to take a long hot shower to relax. I still remember checking every door and window before heading upstairs. Habit, I guess. Everything was locked, everything felt normal. By the time I stepped into the shower, steam had filled the bathroom. The hot water thudded against my shoulders, and for a few minutes I forgot I was alone. My mind drifted. The sound of water drowned out everything else. Then beep, a sharp electronic beep echoed faintly from downstairs. I froze. It was the sound our front door smart lock made whenever someone entered the code. I turned off the water immediately. For a moment I just stood there, heart pounding, trying to convince myself I heard wrong. Maybe it was something outside. Maybe it was something on my phone. But then I heard footsteps, not loud, not rushed, slow, deliberate, walking across the hardwood floor in the living room. My chest tightened as fear crawled up my spine. I reached for a towel, wrapped it around my waist, and stepped out of the shower as quietly as I could. Water dripped onto the tiles. The house had gone completely silent again, but that somehow worsened it. I leaned forward, ear close to the bathroom door creak. A floorboard downstairs groaned under someone's weight. Someone was in the house. I backed away from the door, grabbing my phone off the counter. Wet fingers made the screen slippery. Before I could dial anyone, the footsteps moved to the base of the stairs, one step, another, coming up. I swallowed, forcing myself not to panic. My room was across the hall. If I could just get there, lock the door, call 911. But then the bathroom doorknob twisted. Once, twice, slow, testing, then it stopped. Silence. I stared at the knob, heart hammering so loud I thought the intruder would hear it through the door. Then the door moved. The door moved just a centimeter, then another. The hinges gave a soft groan as whoever stood outside pushed it inch by inch. I stepped backward until my back hit the wall. My whole body shook. The door opened wider. A shadow stretched across the bathroom tiles, and then sirens, faint but growing louder, like they were approaching the neighborhood. The shadow froze. Then the footsteps suddenly retreated, fast this time, pounding down the stairs. I heard the front door slam. Moments later, the distant wail of sirens filled the air, getting closer and closer. My shaking fingers finally dialed 911. I think someone was in my house," I whispered. By the time the police arrived, my mom had pulled into the driveway behind them. Her face was pale as she ran toward me. Officers swept through the house but found nothing. No broken locks, no smashed windows, no forced entry. Just wet footprints leading from the front door to the bathroom hallway. The police asked, "Did anyone else know your door code?" I shook my head. "Just me, my mom, and my sister." The officer exchanged a look with my mom, something grim, something concerned. "Then someone either guessed it," he said quietly, "or watched you enter it recently." That thought alone made me nauseous. They filed a report but said they couldn't do much unless the intruder returned. My mom immediately changed the code, installed cameras, and added extra locks to the windows. But the worst part came a week later. I was leaving for school early in the morning, backpack slung over my shoulder, when I saw something under the front doormat. A note, folded, damp from the dew. My hands shook as I opened it. 4 words, written in messy handwriting. "I saw you shower." I didn't go to school that day. The police came again, took the note, and checked the cameras. Nothing showed, no one approaching the door. "No one is leaving." The detective said something I still think about at night. "Whoever this is, they're careful, cautious." We moved houses 2 months later. And even now, years later, every time I take a shower and the water gets too loud, drowning out the world, I feel that same cold fear crawl up my spine. I can't help but wonder if there's someone else standing quietly on the other side of the door. I used to think the scariest part of being home alone was the silence. But that night, the silence broke. Because someone started walking above my ceiling even though nobody was supposed to be up there. My name is Aiden Ross, and when the incident happened, I was 15 years old, living in a quiet neighborhood in Cedar Valley, Washington. Our house was one of those older split-level homes. Creaky floors, a narrow staircase, and an attic nobody ever used except during Christmas. It was a Friday in early winter. My parents were at a friend's anniversary dinner, and my older sister Harper was at a late-night study group. That left me completely alone for a few hours. At first, I didn't mind. I heated leftovers, settled into the living room, and started watching a sci-fi movie. The house hummed with the heater running, and everything felt normal. Until it didn't. Around 8:45 p.m., right when the movie hit a quiet scene, something above me creaked. Not the usual settling. This was a slow, deliberate step. I muted the TV. The sound came again. Creak, creak. My stomach tightened. The attic. I shook my head, forcing a laugh. "Relax, Aiden, it's an old house. But then the footsteps continued, crossing from one side of the attic to the other, slow, heavy, purposeful. I stood up, heart pounding, and stared at the ceiling. The pattern was unmistakable. Someone was walking up there. I grabbed my phone and called my mom. She didn't answer. I called my sister. Straight to voicemail. A cold wave washed over me. I took a deep breath, grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer, and walked slowly toward the hallway where the attic ladder was. Halfway there, the footsteps stopped. Silence. Then suddenly thud, something hit the attic floor hard, directly above me. I jumped back, nearly dropping the flashlight. Nope, 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 I whispered and backed away. I ran to my room, locked the door, and sat on the floor, trying to calm down. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was an animal. Maybe another thud, louder, closer. My breath caught in my chest. Then came the worst part. The attic ladder creaked once, twice. Someone was lowering it. I pressed my back against my door, gripping my phone with shaking hands. I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in my attic, I whispered. I'm home alone. They're opening the ladder. Is there anyone who was supposed to be in your home tonight? No, no one. Please send someone. Stay in your room. Keep the door locked. Officers are on the way. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. The ladder fully unfolded with a loud metallic clank. Footsteps descended, slow, deliberate. I stepped into the hallway. I covered my mouth with both hands, forcing my breathing to be silent. Tap, tap, tap. He was walking toward my room. I didn't dare look under the door, but I saw the shadow appear, someone standing directly on the other side. My door handle twisted, gently. He appeared to be testing the strength of the lock. My whole body shook. He twisted it again, harder. Than complete silence. The silence felt even more unsettling than the noise had. Minutes passed, or maybe seconds. Fear distorted time. Then there was a soft scrape, like something sliding across the floor. I risked a glance under the door. A piece of paper had been pushed through, just a small, crumpled note. Hands shaking, I leaned forward, snagged it, and unfolded it. 4 words scrawled in messy handwriting. I've been here before. My stomach dropped so fast it hurt. Before I could react, the quiet outside my room shifted again. Footsteps, walking away this time, moving toward the living room, then toward the back door. Then the house went silent. I stayed frozen until I heard sirens approaching. Police! A voice called from downstairs. I unlocked my door and sprinted down, nearly collapsing in front of the officers. They swept the entire house, including the attic, and found something that made my blood run cold. A sleeping bag, half-eaten protein bars, the water bottles were empty, and a phone charger plugged into an outlet up there. The officer looked at me. Kid, someone was living in your attic for days, maybe weeks. I felt my stomach twist. But how? I asked. How did they get in? The officer pointed to the small attic window. The lock was broken. That night, my parents rushed home and hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. We installed cameras the next day, changed all the locks, and repaired the attic. But nothing, not alarms, not locks, not time, stopped the nightmares. Because occasionally when the house gets too quiet and the heater stops humming and the night stretches out too long, I swear I still hear that slow, heavy step above my ceiling. Like someone is pacing again, waiting. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with a message that made my blood turn to ice. Why is there someone standing outside your window? My name is Ella Montgomery, and when this happened, I was 19, living in a small rental house in Hillsboro, Oregon. I had returned home from college for a long weekend while my parents were visiting family out of state. That meant I had the whole house to myself, something I usually enjoyed. I spent most of that Friday night watching Netflix on the couch, wrapped in a blanket with popcorn and soda beside me. Around midnight, the rain began, tapping softly against the glass. I didn't think much of it. By 2 a.m., I got tired and headed upstairs to my bedroom. I brushed my teeth, changed into pajamas, and left only the small lamp on beside my bed. I scrolled on my phone until my eyes started to droop. At 3:02 a.m., my phone vibrated. It was my best friend, Nora. Nora, are you awake? Me, barely. Why, Nora? Ella, are your parents home? Me, number why? Nora, look out your window right now. My stomach tight. Nora lived across the street and her bedroom window faced mine. Something in her tone made my hands shake. I slid off my bed and walked to the window as quietly as I could. My blinds were half open. Rain streaks slid down the glass. Then I saw him, a man standing in the shadows of my yard, facing my window, not moving. My breath caught. He wore a hooded jacket and dark pants, and his hands hung by his sides. Rain soaked his clothes, but he didn't flinch, like he had been there a while watching. I froze, afraid to even breathe too loudly. My fingers trembled as I texted Nora back. Me, he's looking at my room. Who is that? Nora, call the cops. I already did, don't move. My heart thudded in my chest so loudly it echoed in my ears. I backed away from the window and crawled behind my bed, trying to stay out of view. For a moment, nothing happened. Then tap, tap, tap. I felt the blood drain from my face. He was tapping on the glass, slow, deliberate, almost playful. I held my breath. My mind raced. Had I forgotten to lock the downstairs doors? Did he just walk up to the yard? Had he been watching me for longer than I realized? I crawled across my wooden floor toward my bedroom door and locked it with shaking hands. I paced back and forth, trying to breathe. My phone buzzed again. Nora, he's moving. Me, where? Nora, toward your side gate. No, 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 my house had a small wooden gate leading to the backyard. From there, someone could reach the back sliding door or the garage easily. I tiptoed downstairs, each step creaking loudly in the quiet house. I felt sick to my stomach. I reached the bottom floor and peered toward the kitchen. The backyard motion light flicked on. Someone was definitely back there. Then the handle of the back sliding door jiggled once, twice, then harder. He was trying to open it. I gasped and stumbled backward, knocking into the dining chair. It scraped loudly against the floor. I froze. The jiggling stopped. Silence. Then bang, he slammed into the glass. I covered my mouth with both hands to stop a scream. Tears welled in my eyes. My whole body was shaking uncontrollably. He slammed it again. Bang, I forced myself to take a step back, then another, then sprinted quietly toward the stairs. I ran up and locked myself inside my bedroom again. Nora called. I whispered, he's trying to get in. He's leaving the backyard, she whispered back. He's walking toward your front door. Footsteps echoed faintly from downstairs as he circled the house. I pressed myself against my bedroom closet, heart hammering like it wanted to break out of my chest. Then I heard it knock, knock, knock on my front door, slow, soft, like he was asking politely to be let in. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I didn't exist. He knocked again, harder this time. Nora whispered, cops are almost there. Don't go near the door. I crouched lower, clutching my phone, tears slipping down my cheeks. Then sirens loud and close. The knocking stopped instantly. Seconds later, I heard distant yelling. Doors slamming, boots on pavement, flashlights cutting through the darkness. My phone buzzed. Nora, they got him. Stay upstairs. I didn't open my door until an officer called my name. Downstairs, through the glass, they showed me the man they'd caught, mid-40s, soaking wet, blank expression. No ID, didn't say a word. They found footprints by every entrance, handprints on the windows, and muddy streaks along the back door where he had shoved his shoulder. And the worst part, when they searched him, they found a folded piece of paper with my full name written on it. In neat handwriting, the officer asked me, "Do you know him? Has he contacted you before?" I just shook my head. No, never, but deep down, I wasn't sure. I still wonder if he'd been watching me longer than I realized. As if he knew my parents were gone, if he had been waiting for a night when I was alone. I don't sleep with my blinds open anymore, and sometimes, even now when the clock hits exactly 3 a.m., I feel that. The same cold terror crawling up my spine, like someone is standing outside again watching. The scariest part wasn't the knocking. It was the moment he whispered my name through the door, even though I had never seen him in my life. My name is Jason Miller, and I was 20 years old when the incident happened. I lived alone in a small rental house in Ridgewood, Colorado, where most homes sat far apart and nights were eerily quiet. It was a cold February evening. My parents were traveling, my friends were busy, and I had the place entirely to myself. I reheated some leftover pasta, played video games for a while, and by midnight I was ready for bed. Before sleeping, I double-checked all the doors like I always did. Everything was locked, curtains closed. Lights off. At 12:47 a.m. just as I got into bed, I heard it knock, knock, knock. There was a slow, heavy knock at my front door. My chest tightened. Nobody ever came to my house this late. I grabbed my phone and tiptoed to the hallway. Another knock. The knock was more intense this time. I swallowed, trying to stay calm. "Who is it?" I called through the door. Silence. I waited, then I heard a low, raspy, almost smiling voice. "Jason, open up." My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't recognize the voice. The voice was not familiar to me. I backed away from the door. "Who are you?" The man gave a soft chuckle. "Come on now, you know who I am." I didn't. I checked the peephole with shaking hands, but the porch light wasn't on. All I could see was darkness. Then the voice whispered again, quieter. "Jason, I can see you." My breath hitched. I covered the peephole instinctively. I forced myself to speak. "I'm calling the police." The man laughed, slow and mocking. "You already did." My entire body froze. He wasn't guessing. He knew. I staggered back from the door, heart pounding. My phone screen glowed as I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? "There's a man outside my house," I whispered. "He knows my name. He won't go away." As I talked, the knocking stopped. Silence returned. The dispatcher told me officers were on the way and to stay somewhere safe. I crept to my bedroom and locked the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then crunch footsteps, walking across the frozen grass toward my backyard. My house had a sliding glass door in the kitchen. It wasn't visible from the street, perfect for someone trying to get in unseen. I tiptoed back to the hallway and peeked around the corner just enough to see the kitchen. The motion light flicked on. A tall figure stood outside the glass door, facing me. He put his hand on the glass and dragged it slowly downward, leaving a foggy smear. Then he leaned close and his muffled voice seeped through the cold window. "Jason, let me in." I ducked behind the wall, shaking uncontrollably. The dispatcher asked, "Is he inside?" "No," I whispered. He's at the back door. Stay hidden. Officers are almost there." Almost wasn't enough. The man rattled the door handle. Rattle. Rattle, rattle. Then he banged on the glass with his fist. "Jason," he growled, "open the door." The glass shuddered with each hit. I dropped to my knees, covering my ears. "Please hurry," I whispered into my phone. "Please, he's trying to break in." Suddenly everything stopped, the rattling, the banging, his voice. Silence swallowed the house. For a moment I thought maybe he'd left. Then the floorboards near the front porch creaked. He was circling back. I crawled quickly into my bedroom, shut the door, and wedged a chair under the knob. My breath came in short, panicked bursts. Another knock. The knock did not land on the front door this time. He knocked on my bedroom window. I froze. His shadow stretched across the blinds. "Jason," he whispered, voice low and poisonous. "I just want to talk." My throat tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. Then sirens blew and red lights flashed across my walls. The man whispered one last time, almost disappointed, "Next time." Then he ran. I heard the crunch of snow as he sprinted across the yard. Officers pounded on my front door. I stumbled out of my room, opened the door, and nearly collapsed when they stepped inside. They searched the entire property. He was gone, but they did find something: footprints, dozens of them, circling my house in looping patterns. The officers said it looked like he had been walking around for a long time, watching, waiting for the right moment. They also found a small piece of paper near the back door. My name is written on it, and underneath, "I miss you." I stared at it for a long time, trying to understand. I had never met this man. I had never laid eyes on him. I had never had the opportunity to speak with him, but he knew me. He knew my name. He knew I lived alone, and he knew exactly which window belonged to my bedroom. I moved out 3 weeks later. But sometimes, even now when I'm lying awake at night, I still hear it, that soft, patient whisper at my door. "Jason, open up." I thought I was alone in my house, until I saw fingers slowly curling around the edge of my bedroom curtain. My name is Maya Collins, and I was 18 when the incident happened. I lived with my parents in a quiet neighborhood in Fairview, Illinois. It was the kind of neighborhood where everyone knew each other and nothing catastrophic ever happened. However, one night stood out in particular. It was the first Saturday of summer break. My parents had gone to a late anniversary dinner, promising to be back by midnight. I didn't mind. Being home alone meant movies, snacks, and no one telling me to turn the volume down. Around 10 p.m., I was in my room, lights off, watching a thriller on my laptop. My window was open slightly to let in the cool night air, and the curtains swayed gently with the breeze. Everything felt calm until I heard it. There was a soft click from somewhere in the house. I paused the movie. Silence. I reassured myself that it was probably the air conditioning. I pressed play, then I heard it again. A click followed by a faint shuffle, like someone stepping on hardwood. My stomach tightened. I muted the laptop and listened. Nothing. Trying to shake the unease, I walked to my door and peeked into the hallway. The house was dark except for the small lamp in the living room downstairs. I leaned over the railing and whispered, "Hello." No answer. I stepped back into my room and shut the door. Maybe I was imagining things. I sat on the bed and hit play again. That's when I saw it. The curtain on the right side of my window moved. The movement was not due to a breeze, not subtly. It shifted as if someone was behind it. My breath caught. Slowly, I leaned forward. The curtain twitched again. I froze, and then a hand appeared, long fingers, pale, curling around the fabric, holding it. My heart dropped into my stomach. Someone was inside my room. I stumbled backward so fast I hit my nightstand, knocking over a glass of water. It shattered loudly against the floor. The curtain froze, then the hand slipped back behind the fabric. I didn't think. I bolted for the door, slammed it shut, and locked it with trembling fingers. My voice cracked. "Mom, pick up, pick up, pick up." The call went straight to voicemail. I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone's in my bedroom, I whispered, shaking uncontrollably. Please send someone, please. Stay calm, stay somewhere safe. Officers are on the way, do not hang up. I backed into the hallway, breathing fast, eyes locked on my closed bedroom door. Then, thud, there was a loud noise coming from my room. I jumped, nearly dropping the phone. Thud, thud, he was breaking something. He was either breaking something or attempting to escape. My chest tightened painfully. He's in my room, I whispered. He's trying to get out. Stay where you are, the dispatcher said, but I couldn't. If he came out, he would be standing right in front of me. I ran downstairs, barefoot, nearly sliding on the last step. I crouched behind the kitchen island, gripping the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. Kriyak. The upstairs hallway floorboards groaned. He was out of the bedroom. My heart hammered. The slow footsteps came down the hallway, approaching the stairs one step at a time. I covered my mouth to muffle my breathing. The footsteps stopped at the top of the staircase. Silence. Then he started coming down. I could see his shadow stretching across the living room wall. My phone slipped in my sweaty hands. He's coming downstairs, I whispered. Stay hidden. Officers are close. His shadow moved across the bottom floor, searching, feet shuffling, breathing. He felt a slight drag, almost as if he was limping. He stopped in the living room, right outside the kitchen. I held my breath until my lungs burned. For a moment, everything was still. Then, sirens loud, close. The man froze. Then he turned and ran through the back door. The lock snapped loudly as he forced it open. A second later, police pounded inside, shouting, "Hands up, police!" They didn't catch him, but they found muddy footprints on my bedroom floor right beneath the window. The officer asked, "Did you leave this window unlocked?" I shook my head violently. "No. Never. My mom always checks it." He nodded grimly. "The lock was tampered with. He didn't come in tonight. He's been coming in before." My skin prickled with anxiety. The thought that someone had been slipping into my room, watching, waiting. I haven't opened that window since, and at night, even now, I still see it sometimes. The faint image of fingers curling around the edge of the curtain, as if someone is still there hiding. When I heard my mom calling my name from downstairs, I almost answered. But then I remembered my mom wasn't home. My name is Sophie Grant, and I was 17 when the event happened in Pine Hill, Michigan. My mom worked night shifts at a nursing home, and my dad was out of town for a conference. That Thursday night, I was completely alone. It was around 10:45 p.m. when the power flickered twice. Not enough to go out, but enough to make the house feel wrong. I was in my room doing homework, trying to ignore the uneasy silence that always came when I was by myself. The house creaked, the wind pushed against the siding, normal things. I tried not to overthink it. But then around 11 p.m., I heard something from downstairs. A soft shuffle, then the sound of something brushing against the hallway wall. I froze. "Milo," I whispered, hoping it was my cat, but Milo was curled on my bed, ears perked, staring at the door with wide eyes. A cold wave ran through me. I stepped quietly toward my bedroom door and listened. Tap, tap, tap. There were light footsteps approaching the base of the stairs. I backed away, heart racing. Then I heard it. I heard my mom's voice. "Sophie, can you come here for a second?" I felt my entire body go cold. Her voice sounded almost right, but not quite. It was as if someone were attempting to imitate her tone and rhythm, but they lacked the warmth. I cleared my throat. "Mom," no answer. However, the volume increased. "Sophie, come downstairs." This time, the voice stretched the words like my mom never did. My stomach twisted. My hands shook. I grabbed my phone and texted her quickly. "Me. Are you calling me, Mom?" "What? No, I'm on break at work. Everything okay?" My heart dropped. Someone was downstairs, someone pretending to be her. I locked my bedroom door immediately. "Milo," I whispered, scooping the cat into my arms. He trembled against me. The house fell silent for a long moment. Then the footsteps started again, slow, deliberate. Coming up the stairs, each step creaked louder than the last. I backed away from the door, covering my mouth, trying to steady my breathing. "Soft," the voice called out again, weaker this time, almost wrong, like whoever was saying it didn't understand how the name was supposed to sound. My eyes filled with tears. They reached the top of the stairs. A shadow slid under the gap of my bedroom door, then the doorknob turned slowly, very slowly. I held my breath, hugging Milo so tightly he whimpered. "Open the door," the voice whispered, except now it didn't sound like my mom at all. The illusion was gone. It was deeper, rougher, male. My knees buckled. I crouched beside my bed, shaking uncontrollably. The doorknob rattled harder, then bang. There was a loud bang against the door. I yelped despite trying not to. Bang another. The door shook in its frame. My phone slipped from my hand as I scrambled to dial 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in my house. He's trying to get into my room. Please, please hurry. The dispatcher told me officers were on the way, but it barely registered. I was staring at the door, waiting for it to break, then suddenly silence. The shadow disappeared. A moment later, I heard swift footsteps going back down the stairs. The front door slammed open. Cold air rushed through the house. The sirens approached seconds later. Police cleared every room. Whoever it was gone, but they found something. They discovered mud on the carpet in the living room, a kitchen drawer left open, and near the stairs, my mom's name is written on a scrap of paper with my name written underneath it. When the officer saw my face, he said quietly, he wasn't confused. He knew exactly who lived here. I didn't sleep at home for weeks, and even now sometimes, just as I'm about to fall asleep, I swear I hear my mom's voice calling my name from downstairs.